You know, this year started out looking like it was going to have a terrible year at the box office, but the longer that this summer goes on, the better this box office is looking like. Because, yes, hello, how's it going, everyone? Welcome back to Movie Talk, and welcome to another episode of the Box Office Update, where I go through the top 10 of the box office, talk about how the results are looking. I look over at the future box office, see new movies that are coming out. So stay tuned for that to see what's coming out next. But Twisters is having a fantastic opening weekend. So $80.5 million, that's the biggest ever for a disaster movie. And that's also the second biggest opening weekend this year for a live action film. But there's also another stat. So $80.5 million, that's roughly about 2 million less than Oppenheimer. And Oppenheimer made just a hair under $1 billion. I get that it had the whole Barbenheimer thing going behind of it, but I'm just saying, there is a chance this could be $1 billion movie. Is it likely? Not at all. I'd be shocked if it did. But that's not saying there's not at least a 1% chance that it could happen. And that would be insane to think that if this movie, even if it just made like 8 or 900 million dollars, like that is insane to think for a tornado movie like this. And hey, my projection wasn't wrong. I said 70 to 90 million. That ended up being right in the middle. So you know what? I'll take that win. I kind of need them when I do. I'm horrible at my projections, and I'm sure you're going to see how bad I am at it later on this video. But as for usual, I'll stand aside and I'll show you the entire top 10. So if you want to be watching that while you see the video, and don't just immediately click off as soon as you see the top 10, because I go into the analytics and kind of go more in a deep dive as to everything. So just stay tuned for that. But yeah, I mean, it's so far like this top 10 is looking really great. Despicable Me ended up falling to second place with $23.8 million, which is about a 48% drop. And it is showing very good. It's made a little over $600 million. It's not going to end up being a $1 billion film, but I mean, it's not like it's 2019. Like, not every movie is going to make $1 billion. And so it's still doing very good at the box office. I'm really happy for the film. I hated it personally, but I mean, I enjoy seeing the minions. So as long as I can see the minions, I'm happy at the end of the day. Inside Out 2 is in third place. 4.836%. Inside Out 2 ended up being in third place, made $12.8 million, 36% drop, and it is just insane seeing how well this movie is going. I mean, it's already past the highest grossing film of the year. It's going to stay like that. Deadpool and Wolverine, I'm sorry, it's not going to make anywhere near $1.5 billion. But I mean, still, I'm really excited to see that this is going to get more installments. I mean, nothing's confirmed yet, but come on. You make a movie that makes $1.5 billion. You seriously telling me you're not going to make a sequel? Now, here's the interesting story. So, Longlegs comes in number 4, $11.7 million, but it had a 48% drop, which is insane to hear about for a horror movie or just any movie in general. I should also mention it did get a few, like a 300 more theaters that are playing it now, and so that did help the box office a lot, because usually there's just the longer that the movie plays, especially in like the second weekend, if it's not like a giant blockbuster, generally there's usually a few hundred theaters that lose the film, and so it did get more theaters, and so that's why the box office is way higher than usual for it. But I mean, for a budget, I mean, the movie is projected anywhere between 10 to 16 million dollars. I've been seeing some people saying it was a budget of $3 million. Guys, you don't make a movie like that looks $3 million and get an actor like Nicolas Cage in it. It wasn't a $3 million budget movie. But still, let's say that it was the highest. Let's say it was $16 million, which chances are it was probably close to 10 million. But let's just say that $16 million. So if you use the general rule of thumb, your movie needs to make about 2.5 times the budget in order to make a profit. That comes up to around $40 million. This is the second weekend, and it's already at $40 million. So even if it takes as much as like $50 million, like some like insane amount of money in the marketing campaign, which by the way, they didn't really do spend a whole lot of money in marketing. This movie kind of had a lot of word of mouth and those teasers that they did. But let's just say even if it takes $50 million to break even, this movie is going to very easily surpass that. I can see it ending around like 60-70 million dollars at the total box office. And for seeing like an independent horror film that's not based on any ideas, it's an original story. That is amazing. And I want to see more movies like this. I'm hoping that it can start doing, because I mean A24 has been doing this for a while, but I'd love to see even studios past A24 of doing these unique original horror movies. And I'm hoping that it's a sign, because also Neon is distributing Shelby Oaks, which is an original idea too. And so maybe this can start bringing a new wave of just original horror films, and I'm totally down for it. Number 5 was Quiet Place Day 1, made $6.1 million. There's nothing new to really talk about it. It's not going to make $300 million like the first two, but that still doesn't take away from the fact that it's still a successful movie. Like, it still made a good bit of profit. It is still pretty popular. It's keeping people, like, the idea of Quiet Place in their minds. Like, they're still thinking about it, which is good, because you don't want to wait too long for movies like this, and people kind of just like start forgetting about it. And so this is a good number, nothing new to talk about, but it's nothing to be worried about. Fly Me to the Moon comes in number 6, $3.3 million. That's a 65% drop. This movie cost $100 million. This is not going to get anywhere near its budget, let alone breaking even. It ended up being a box office bomb, and I mean, it's whatever. Movies like this happen. It's probably going to still stay in the top 10 for another weekend, and then that's going to be it. It's just going to kind of go on Apple TV and live its rest of life over on there. Number 7 is Bad Boys Ride or Die. Nothing new with this. It's still doing a very good hold. I mean, I say this every week, and there's nothing new to really talk about, because I will say though, it is amazing that it's been able to have this strong of a hold for this long. It's been staying consistently in the top 10 every weekend, and it's impressive seeing that even like weeks after, like months after this movie has been out in theaters, it's still making money, it's still showing, and I'm really happy about it. Hey Hollywood, take this as a lesson. Don't put your movies out on streaming a whole weekend after it plays in theaters. It is a fun fact, if you let the movie play in theaters for a long period of time, guess what? It's going to make money. Bad Newz comes in at number 8, making $1 million. And another Indian movie I never heard of, another Indian movie that I'm really happy to make it in the top 10. Usually there's at least one of these films, if not two, sometimes even three, that make it into the top 10. And right now, there's just one right now. I mean, every single one of these Indian movies, you'll notice they make it in the top 10 for one weekend, and that's it. Maybe sometimes they make it a second weekend. I like barely hanging on number 10. But yeah, I mean, it's nice to see that it's still out and playing theaters. MaXXXine comes in at number 9, making $819,000, which it feels weird to say that a movie made in the top 10 while not even making $1 million at the box office. But I mean, it is not really a whole lot of competition once you get this low down in the box office. So it's cool to see that I mean, still people are going to see the movie. I don't know who is, but people are going to see it. I mean, the mediocrity of the movie killed it. That's the reason why it just didn't work. And it's probably going to be the last weekend you actually see it in the top 10. And for the pleasant surprise of the weekend, Bikeriders actually came in at number 10, making $700,000. It actually had a 75% increase. I don't know if there was something that was going on that like people just wanted to go back and see it, especially because like it lost like 400 theaters. Like, it's only down to 300 theaters playing it nationwide. And I don't know, people just decided, hey, I'm going to go watch Bikeriders again. And I mean, this is far beyond the point where it could actually save the movie. I mean, we've more than past that point in the timeline. And so it's cool seeing people still watching the movie, but I mean, at this point, there's no saving the box office. And so, yeah, that's this weekend's box office. But what's it going to look like next weekend? So, there's going to only be one new movie coming out next weekend. However, it's a pretty big one because Deadpool and Wolverine, finally, after so long of waiting, it's finally going to be out in theaters. And it may just be only one movie, but it's going to be a giant opening weekend. So when I look at the weekend predictions for movies, I look at Box Office Pro, and so they're saying it's between 180 to 200 million dollars, which, by the way, would be absolutely insane. But I've also been seeing other projections from like official people saying that it could be as high as 220 million. And you know what? For my own predictions, I really do believe it's going to be 190 bare minimum, and I could say it could be as high as 220 million. That's what I'm thinking. I think that 220 is the max. I mean, maybe in some strange world, like it can somehow get even bigger than that, which honestly, I wouldn't be surprised at this point if it made like 230, 240 million. It's like an insane number like that. But also, I want to talk about one interesting thing. If, let's just say, it does get to $200 million in the opening weekend, what would that mean for the rest of the box office? So, saying that if Deadpool and Wolverine did make $200 million, what would be the closest it would come to it? That would be Black Panther, which made $202 million, and that was actually the number 8 biggest opening weekend of all time. And so, if you look at that $200 million, $202 million opening weekend, want to know how much it made in its worldwide gross? $1.3 billion. Hey, okay, let's say that it doesn't make 200 million. Let's say it goes closer to second place behind it, which is Lion King, the 2019 remake. That made 191 million dollars opening weekend. Want to know how much money that made? 1.6 billion dollars. Okay, but wait. Let's look at the biggest opening weekend that didn't end up making $1 billion. That would end up being Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. That ended up making $187 million. 187, that's one of the lower scales of Deadpool and Wolverine, and that made $955 million. And you know what stopped it from making $1 billion? It was a mediocre film. Some would even call it a bad movie. A lot of people would actually call it a bad movie, and that still made $955 million. In fact, you know what? Let's go one step further. Let's say that the opening weekend does even worse than the projections. Let's say it goes closer to Captain America Civil War, which made $179 million. So that's not at the 180, obviously. And so let's look at how well that did. $1.1 billion. The point I'm trying to make is that it is so hard for this movie to not make $1 billion, because if it's going even worse than what their official projections are, and by the way, the official projections are really accurate with how it ends up being in real life. Oftentimes they underestimate the movie and end up becoming even bigger than it actually is. Not all the time, but with twisters, that definitely is what happened. And so if you look at all of this combined, then this movie is basically, history likes to repeat itself, and history is going to repeat itself with another $1 billion superhero movie. But that's this weekend's box office update. I mean, what do you think of the box office? Do you agree with me? Disagree with me? How excited are you for Deadpool and Wolverine? I know that's my most anticipated movie of the year. No, I lie. And Nora is my most anticipated. I'm sorry, I'm a big fan of Sean Baker. I don't care how cool Deadpool and Wolverine is. I am so pumped to watch Nora. But that's a different conversation for another time. But tell me everything that you think of the movie. And I mean, if you like the box office updates, I mean, like and subscribe to the channel, share the video if you want, because it really helps out me a lot. And that's really it. That's really all I have to say about the box office update. So that's movie talk. See ya.